sober, busy living sober, busy living sober. Hello, everybody. Deb's laughing so hard in the background at my dance. If you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube. And today I'm really excited. I have Deb Masner from Alcohol Tipping Point. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. It's so fun. Again, if you're listening and not watching this, we are wearing pink and green, which for those that really know me well, know that I'm really preppy as it is. And it's just perfect because we are literally like a preppy handbook or something with the hot pink and the green. Hello, Buffy and Biff. That's what we look like. Who would have ever thought Buffy? No, we're Buffy and Buffy. Okay, the two Buffys would be alcoholics. Or, excuse me, I'm an alcoholic. You are a gray area drinker. Is that what you refer to yourself as?
Well, now I refer to myself as an alcohol-free badass. So,
Oh, excuse me. The other Buffy is an alcohol-free badass. I love that. And who would have ever thought, right? You'd be going on a podcast telling these stories about these scary things in your closet. We open it up and we're going to show everybody. Isn't that crazy?
I never would have thought that. Not in a million years.
Not in a million trillion years. And you did it. And you went out there and you showed the world. And what made you decide to go out and tell everybody your story and be honest?
Well, because I struggled for so long with my drinking because I considered myself like a gray area drinker, whatever that is. And so I just never really fit the mode of AA. I never was quote unquote bad enough to go to inpatient rehab. Like I just felt like I was in this nowhere land where I knew I had a problem with drinking, but I didn't know how to get help. And I felt really alone. I felt so alone. And so when I finally quit, I told myself, even as I was quitting, when I get to the other side, I'm going to help people. I want to be someone that people can go to and ask, how do I quit drinking? How do I change my drinking? And so that is why I share and why I do what I do.
And you help people. I mean, you've been helping people since, how long have you been a nurse?
Well, good. Been a nurse for 19 years. So, yeah, so I'm a registered nurse and a health coach. And so like you said, I was helping people anyway. It's just in my nature. I have a psychology degree. Back in the day when I was in high school, we had something called natural helpers. I don't know if you had that or anybody else did, but it was like you get nominated among your peers because you are a natural helper. And so we had like this camp thing we went to. I just have always been passionate about helping other people. That's in my blood for sure.
Now, where are you in your family lineup of your family of origin, like the family you grew up in? What number are you?
What do you think I am?
I think you're the middle or the
No,
oldest.
I'm the youngest. I'm the
Youngest.
baby.
See,
Yeah.
sometimes I swear sometimes it's like I'm the oldest. You're the baby. And then the middle one likes to hold everybody together, like it's very neutral. So you're taking care of everybody. And you knew
Yeah.
growing up, when you were little, you wanted to take care of people. Like that was your deal.
Yeah. Always. No
And
matter what.
and have you always lived in, and by the way, you guys, she lives in Boise, Idaho. And I was complaining about the state of affairs in South Florida where it's the whopping 72 degrees. She's like, well, it's been in the 20s. And I'm like, and you're like, it's freezing at 70. Have you
Yeah.
always lived in Boise?
Well, I grew up in Moscow, Idaho. So I've always been an Idahoan. And I've lived in Boise for, gosh, almost 24 years now. Yeah. Love it. Love it here. Come visit.
I'm
It's
definitely
amazing. It's
coming to visit,
beautiful.
even though your girls think it's boring and they want to get out to the big bad
They
city.
do. They do.
We always want something that we cannot have. And then we get there and we're like, wait a minute, I really think Boise was the place to be, but we'll let them dream. So when you were younger, how old were you when you started to drink?
I was in junior high. I was 13. when I started sneaking, my dad's Jack Daniels or friends' liquor cabinets. We would start sneaking, watering down all their liquor. So that's when I started. And, growing up in Moscow, it's a college town. It's University of Idaho. It's actually where they had that horrific stabbing murder
Oh
where they
my
couldn't find the
God.
guy
Yes.
for
Oh my
months. And
gosh.
yeah,
Oh.
yes, but which was shocking because it is just a college town, a small town. There's like 19,000 people there. And so it really had a heavy drinking culture with the university there and just being kind of in a podunk area, agricultural area with not much around it. So that's where I started my drinking career.
And was your dad working at the university or your mom?
No, my dad owned a restaurant up there, and my mom was going to grad school up there. Yeah. But most of the people, like most of my friends their parents were all affiliated with the university. Everybody was very affiliated with U of I for sure.
I would bet. And did your older brothers and sisters, do you have older brothers and sisters or both?
Yeah, I have an older brother and older sister.
And were they partiers too or no?
My brother just celebrated. Well, now it's like 2.5 years. So he's 2.5 years sober now.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And then my sister is one of those like take it or leave it kind of
Right.
drinkers. Yeah, she's one of those people. Yeah, but she's middle child. Like she holds it all together, that's for sure. Control is one of her things. So yeah, so interesting journey to be on with my brother and when we kind of started quitting drinking together. Definitely.
So I want you to tell me, so you ended up, did you go to the U of I as well?
I did. I didn't want to, but I graduated high school and my parents would only pay for college in state. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go to U of I. So I got my degree in psychology and I thought I was going to go on and be a counselor because that's what my mom was. But then I decided, you know what, I really love the sciences. And so I decided to go on to nursing. So then I moved down to Boise with my now husband and went to nursing school here at Boise State.
Okay. And when your husband, so did you guys drink together? Were you guys like partying
We hooked
together?
up at a bar. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but he is also one of those people who could take it or leave it. Like he knew how to party and that's how we got together, but it wasn't, I have a lot of people in my groups and relationships where they're married to their drinking buddy and so when they change their drinking it becomes really difficult when their partner's not changing. Thank God my husband was like, I support you. I don't need to drink. Like that just wasn't his thing.
Oh, how blessed are you? You're so lucky, right?
I am.
Because it's really hard for a lot of people. And so you ended up having two daughters. And during your pregnancies, were you drinking a lot or no? Did you stop right away?
So during my pregnancies, I stopped as soon as I knew I was pregnant. And then in the third trimester, I found all the evidence I could online that one drink was okay. So I would have one drink. Not all the time, but sometimes. I mean, now I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, right. And then I started drinking again after I delivered them. But
Okay.
I still wasn't ready to give up drinking, and I still thought like, oh, I've proved to myself like, oh, I don't need to drink or I can go months without it. Yeah, for sure.
And I was the same exact way. I mean, I was drinking all the time. My husband and I partied together. And so when I got pregnant, it would be like, okay, now that I'm a vessel to carry this little bundle of joy, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do anything bad. And I was so good. But the minute I gave birth, I'd be like, get out there, bring me a bottle of Dom. I want a bottle of champagne in my, I almost said my hotel room, my hospital room. But you had a break. I mean, that was a break. Once you had the baby, you got one night, at least I did. I would be like, keep the baby, let me have this, because I know for the rest of my life, this child's going to be, I'm going to have to take care of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
So I had
Yep.
one born in 96, one born in 97, and one born in 99. So I had 3 kids really fast. And it was, and every time I'd stop. So it was kind of like 3 years I took a I was like just taking a sabbatical, or what's that word? Am I using the wrong word?
Sabbatical?
Sabbatical. I didn't I'd say it correctly. I would take a sabbatical and I wouldn't drink at all. And while I was pregnant, and then I'd give birth, and then it would be like off to the races again, because I've never started drinking again since I quit, so it's been 17 years. And on August 14th, God willing, I'll have 18 years. But when I stopped, that was it. I never was a controlled drinker. I never tried to do that, because I was, I don't think I could have. I think it was, I have that phenomenon of crave. Like, I have one, I need to have 47. Like when you just said you had one when you were pregnant at the last trimester, I would be like, I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I could never have just one. Like, who wants just one? I could never do that. So that's kind of cool that you could just have one then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also I did a lot of dry months. I would do one every year before this race that's in Boise. We have this race to Roby Creek. I was kind of a runner. Well, actually was running. Running was like my punishment for drinking, and also my justification for drinking. So I was like, oh, if I run, I can work off the calories, and, I can keep drinking. And then I would take the month off before this race from drinking, just also to prove to myself again and again, like, I can do it. Like, I don't have a problem. I'm not an alcoholic, because I can take a month off. And I had so many dry months and day ones, and then trying to moderate. So I really did go through trying to moderate. I didn't want to give it up. I went years trying to moderate. That's for sure. And so I finally got to a point where I recognized, like, it was easier for me to be 100% alcohol free than to drink. There's this saying that 99% is a bitch and 100% is bliss. And that's how I feel about moderation. Like, it's just easier for me not to drink than to try to have one, because I never wanted one. It's like potato chips. Like, why? Especially after kids and whatnot. Like, why do I just want, like, why would I drink decaf coffee? Like, why? So I totally get that, but I really had to go through all the phases and the breaks and the drink less and all of that for sure.
See, that to me sounded like such torture on earth. Like, as you just
It
mentioned,
was.
yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I also never did that. Like, I'm only gonna have beer. I'm only gonna have clear liquids. I would say the only thing I would say is, like, I'll only have one dirty martini and then bring it all on. But I never only had one dirty martini. I like to have 2. When you could have one, why wouldn't you have 2? But that's interesting. So you would give it up. And this race, what time of year is this race? And tell us what it's about. Because now I'm intrigued. I'm like, what is this race? You run to a creek? What is that? Tell me. People in other parts of the country, I love learning about different parts.
Oh, okay. Well,
this
is a semi-famous race in the Pacific Northwest. It's labeled as like the hardest half marathon. So it's 13 miles, and it's called the Race to Roby Creek. And so you're basically running 7,000 feet elevation. Like, it's like 7.5, 8 miles uphill and gaining an elevation. And then the remainder is downhill. And you're running out to this creek that's you have to be like bussed back, and it's just kind of this community thing. Even when you register for it, like, it sells out in an hour or whatever. So it's just kind of this big deal around here. So that's in April. So then I would always take the break, in the spring.
Oh my gosh. And this, okay, that sounds like hell on earth for me who doesn't run ever unless somebody's chasing me. So literally, I've never been a runner. I'm like, why would anybody want to do that? It hurts my knees, it hurts everything. So you would go and you do this and you'd complete this race. And when you were done, would you have a drink?
Abso-fucking-lutely, 'cause they had beer at the end. It was kind of like a big drinking p to me, it'd be interesting to do it again now. I actually don't really even run anymore, and I had a love-hate thing with running, and like I said, it was my punishment for drinking, and I don't drink anymore, so I don't have to run anymore. But, yeah, it was a big party at the end, and I was always just, like, back in it, like, "Yeah, I earned this."
It's so interesting you said that because I have a friend who just ran in the Philadelphia Marathon, and she said they were handing out shots of Maker's Mark and IPA at the end.
Oh, I was telling you, you get to the top of the summit, there's traditionally shots of liquor on your way, right before the summit, and donuts, but yeah, they're giving out liquor on the race. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, to me, that sounds insane, right? Because then I'd be a little like not easy or climbing down a mountain. Like I fall when I'm just walking down a hill anyway. So, like, to be thinking that I'm going down a mountain
Yeah.
like this, I could definitely fall. That's crazy. And you did this because you're like, I don't want to be this person that has a drinking problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Isn't it crazy what this stigma that's so big? And I am so happy that people like you are out there, Deb, that are talking about it and are changing. Because when I got sober 17 years ago, plus whatever, doesn't matter, there were no other options, right? There
Yeah.
was one option. It was like you're going to go to an AA meeting, even though, my family's like, you're not an alcoholic. Like you don't jump on trains and drink alcohol and jump and go sit in the park with a bottle and a brown paper bag. And that's the only stereotype there was, right? It was Robert Downey Jr., it was Charlie Sheen, it was like just this crazy flamboyant people that were off the rails completely. And people that were like a mom, it looked normal on the outside. It's like, I'm a mom. You have two children. I have three children. I have a car in the driveway. I go to work every day. I have, relationships. I'm a member of my community, but I also have this little secret and I don't want anybody to know. How would you drink when you were drinking? Were you like a closet drinker? Were you at the bar? What were you social? Were you not social? How would you characterize your drinking when you did drink?
Definitely not at the bar. Well, it got really bad when the kids were little, like toddler, preschool age. I stayed home so when I had my first daughter, I was lucky and privileged enough to stay home for my nursing job. And so it was at least like a bottle of wine a day. It got really bad. It's funny. It's like it plays with your head because there's not like a rock bottom and then you never go back up. I was like up and down and up and down with my drinking. But when it was the worst was when they were young, and I would often just get like before my husband came home from work, I would get like that was when IPAs were starting to come out. So I'd get like, I don't know, is it a liter or a pint? One of
Yeah,
those
pint.
big
Yeah.
IPAs.
Yeah.
Drink that before he got home so he wouldn't know. And then I'd crack open the bottle of wine. But what it was it was a way for me to be physically present because I had to be there with the kids, but check out mentally. And so
Would you say you had postpartum when you had the girls?
I did have postpartum and I did go on antidepressants. And actually, I'm still on antidepressants now. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I did. I definitely did.
Well, navigating life when we have kids is such a different time. Like we think that it's what we're supposed to do, right? Like we're growing up and you're supposed to be a nice, good girl and you marry a
Check.
cute boy. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the whole checklist,
Uh,
And then this baby comes home and as happy as you are, you're like, I don't really know what the hell I'm doing here.
oh my gosh. Yes. I had every on my coffee table, every single parenting book out there because it wasn't I mean, I had my first daughter in 2006. So it just I wasn't there wasn't as much accessible on your phone, but I would have been into all that. But everything, I'm like, I don't know how to take care of this. Like reading every parenting manual, every baby book. She couldn't breastfeed. It was just all this constant oh and then when they're little, as you know, like you are just on all the time and then it's exhausting. And so I felt like it was my only escape. I'm like, when does 4 o'clock get here? When does 5 o'clock get here? Like I can start sipping and while they're, while I'm doing dinner and then bathing and bedtime and, yeah, it would definitely was my way to cope with mothering, for sure.
And I love that we're talking about this because I think, especially for moms that are like, and you're not, I mean, you had one when in 2006, my oldest was 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, there wasn't the stuff there is today. You weren't going onto Instagram saying, oh, look, there's an anxiety specialist. Oh, look, there's a parenting coach. Now there's all these resources. But for the people that are our age that are out there that are listening today, I love that we're bringing up this stuff that, again, it's not only the alcohol that has the shame, but the mom that's out there that's like, you know what? I have so much shame because I have this baby and I know I love it so much. But my son also couldn't nurse my oldest. It just, I mean, I
Yeah.
bled. It was this horrible. Oh my gosh, I was kicking the chair. It was hurting more I mean, it was just terrible. And no one, and everybody's like, oh, but you have to do it. And I'm like, what? I'm supposed to do this? Why? Why? And nobody
Yeah.
tells you why not. And you think, because everybody says so. And I'm doing that in air quotes if you're not watching this again. But it's like, it really gives you the sense that you're like a failure.
And there's so many other examples like that with parenting. And so I felt like I had to go and because I was drinking, again, I felt like I had to go above and beyond and prove myself as a parent because I mean, it wasn't responsible or safe for me to be drinking nightly with my kids. So I was like president of the PTA. I was volunteering. I was taking them to parks and the library and craft projects and not doing screen time and reading everything just to compensate for this other area where I wasn't perfect. I
Yeah.
have I have this mug that says that is so helpful to me now and it says I'm proud to be a remarkably average parent.
Oh,
And I just feel like that's a gift because, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to love our kids, provide food and shelter and love them. And we get caught up in just being this perfect parent. And it's hard. It really is.
it's really hard. And when you quit, did your girls even know?
Yeah. So my girls, I guess by the time it stuck, they were 10 and 13. And so my younger daughter, Alice, was very involved with my drinking. As in, I'd be like, mommy's taking a break or whatnot. My oldest wasn't as into it. She's kind of always been into doing her own thing. But Alice was always like my little koala bear, my little buddy. And so she was very invested in my drinking and taking breaks. And she was getting to an age at school where they start talking about alcohol and how it's bad for you. And so if I did drink, she would be so mad at me. She just became like this little police officer in the house,
Mhm.
which was, oh, it was, I don't know, it contributed to the shame as well. And at one point, I just had to say to her, like, I love you so much. And I'm so grateful that you love and care for me so much. But this is my thing. This isn't your thing. I mean, and so I just had to take over the responsibility and take it away from her because I think it weighed so heavily on her. And then, she's since become the biggest cheerleader and is so happy for me and proud of me and the alcohol tipping point and all that. And I remember when I first got sober and it was like sticking, she changed the Netflix profile. You know how each
Yeah.
member can have a profile. I still have this. It's been like almost 4 years now. It says sober mom. And then it's a picture of Titus Andromedus, who's the black gay guy from Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah.
But it's so cute, it's so sweet, and yeah, I mean, I just feel bad in hindsight. I have all that guilt that goes with drinking when your kids were young and, the counseling that they're gonna need, and
They would have needed counseling anyway, Deb. I'm just going to tell you because we all.
Oh, you're right. You're right. There is no perfect. You're right. You're so right.
I mean,
But yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the one thing is that I want, the busy living sober is more about being like navigating this thing we call life without beating ourselves up because there is no quote unquote table that this judgment of everyone is, even though we think that there is. And I
Yeah.
really think that like we do rely on our kids when we're younger because we don't, and I have to say for my age group and yours, I think this, and I'll speak for myself just to be clear so nobody sends me any hate mail over this, but I really believe that we didn't really share who we were with other people, even our closest friends, even our siblings, even our moms, because we were like, you know what, you're going to judge me. You're going to judge me if I tell you. But you know what? This little person that's in this house that I gave birth to and is here and I feed every day and I clothe every day and is with me 24 hours a day until they go to school, which is only for 8 hours a day. By the way, they're home for the rest of the time. And you're like you talk to them. And you
Yeah.
won't talk to yourself. I feel that I talk to myself more now that they're gone because you spend so much time and you're just talking and they listen and they're sponges.
They
And,
are.
right. And you don't do it like your intention was never like, oh my gosh, Alice, I want you to be my coach at the age of 10. My daughter will say to me all the time, she's like, Mom, my daughter's name's Hadley. And she'd be like, Mom, I'm not your therapist. Do you know I was like your therapist when I was younger? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry. But no, what am I going to do? I can't go back and change it. It's just what it was.
Yeah, and I think and I tell people I work with a lot of moms too that deal with like regret and guilt and I do think it's so powerful for our kids to see that we're not perfect and for them to see that change is possible and we can change. And then also to just be grateful like at least I did change, I'm so grateful that I did quit drinking while they were young, and it doesn't matter what age they are that you quit drinking, you can do it. It's never too late, and so I think it is powerful for them to see that that change is possible.
Well, I will tell you, with mine being so much older than yours, it's been being a sober parent. And again, this is my opinion, has been, I don't want to say has given me a leg up because I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that because my kids drink and, they do whatever they do, for better or worse, I've seen it. I've been there around it. I've watched it. And it has been, to be able to be there as a mom and say, I can tell you where this could go. Where you saw me. And when I told them when they were in high school, don't drink, they were like, they might have done it anyway, but they knew that they had a sober mom at home. And
Yeah.
that is like such a huge thing that I haven't heard in a long time. And I remember when my oldest went to college, he's now 27, and he was in a fraternity and he came home and he'd be like, Mom, Do you know, because moms today we look good. Like we're all about health and wellness and we look so good. I'm gonna say we both look so good. Look at how good we look. And you go to the sorority and fraternity parties, and moms that party, they put a balloon on their back so they know that's the mom. He's like, Mom, isn't that creepy? Like, I would not want you hanging out with me and my guy friends party. Like, I do not think that's fun. Like, I don't want you playing beer pong with me. You're supposed to be my mom that's at home baking brownies, whatever, which have never been that mom. But you know what? But I mean that I've always been there as like, I'm your role model, and I'm not going to do this partying thing and support it and get in here and go toe to toe with you. If I were drinking, if I hadn't stopped drinking when I definitely would have been one of those moms with the balloon on my back, trying to act like I'm a kid.
Yeah, I would have too. And I got to the point like with my parents when they were old, when we were all older, but where like my dad was my drinking buddy. Um Not in this whole college drinking thing and moms, and that's a whole other ball game. And I think that it is newer because when I was going to college, we did not party with our parents. And now I have a niece who's college age. And so watching like my sister navigate that too, like she's like, these moms are like, they go have shots, they go out for all their 21st birthdays and drink with them. Like that's different. That's new.
That is so new. And that's when my kids were doing that. And I would be like, for one, they're like not inviting the sober mom to come to my 21st birthday, Mama. Thanks a lot. I'm like, yeah, not happening. I have no interest. But there's this point that I remember one of his friends, it was kind of sad. The dad had had too much to drink, at one of these parties and ended up sleeping in a chair outside of the fraternity house. And it's like pouring down rain on him. And he's like still out there in the morning. And this young man, the son, was just like, you're so lucky that you have parents that don't drink and are actually paying attention to
Mm,
you. But I think that part of my selfishness when I was drinking, I don't know if you can relate to this, but my selfishness when I was drinking was like, it was all about me. I'm not hurting anybody else. And when we're in that drink, when we get into that, it's like, I'm only hurting me. I'm only hurting me. I'm only hurting me. But then you have these kids that you're like, wait a minute. They are watching. And as you mentioned
yeah.
earlier, they're sponges, right? She's taking in everything you're doing. So being there and being like, I mean, it's okay, but just maybe think about it before you decide to go to those, tailgates and 21st birthdays and realize that you are the parent, you have your own friends, and your kids have their own friends. And they don't necessarily want them to all come together. Maybe at a wedding down the road, but not when you're in college. They're like, yeah, you stay in your lane and I'll stay in mine. Right?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, really interesting. But
It's
I'm like so grateful to be sober now and have teenagers and be able to pick up the phone, drive them anytime, just be here for them. Like just know that like I have a sober mom at home. And my older daughter cares more about what other people think, and she'll say things sometimes like, wish you could just be like the other moms. Why don't you just drink like the other moms? That kind of thing. Because she just wants me to fit in. She wants to fit in. So she wants me to fit in. But, she has also said, like, we've been at a pool on vacation and there've been some drunk moms around. And she's like, you know, I'm glad you don't drink.
yeah.
So I think she sees it, but
Oh,
yeah.
she'll tell you. I bet you when she's older, she's going to be like, I never said that. What are you talking about? I've never said that, Mom. I could, you know,
Right?
it's so
Yeah.
funny because it's like, oh, I want you to be a cool mom. I'm like, I always say to my kids, I'm like, you know what happens to the cool kids? They end up working at the gas station down the street. Just so you know, that's where Biff goes. Cause remember in all the old movies.
Ugh.
So when your brother, and now I'm going to switch gears totally. So
Yeah.
your brother, because I have siblings that are also, what they've had, they're not sober today. They have been in their past.
Okay.
And it's been hard. It's really hard. It's been there, what alcohol does to families is just so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. And I come from one of those families, and it takes dysfunction to the next level. It takes the holidays to the next level. And we just finished Thanksgiving, and we're just about to get to Christmas. And all those feelings come around. And I would imagine that having two of you must has changed it up dramatically and made it so much better.
Yeah, I mean, he lives up in Coeur d'Alene. He lives in northern Idaho. So we don't see him as much over the holidays, but he did come for my niece's graduation from college in the spring. And I remember my dad looking at us both like, huh, so you both don't drink now. Like, hmm. And I was just like, yep, we got out of the matrix. Yeah, but it's so nice to have a family member that you can like commiserate with and talk with and support each other. And he's just been a great support for me and vice versa, I hope.
I just love that. And so when your dad sees this, does it make him like take a step back, or is he totally cool with it and he's actually really proud of you guys?
He is not a talker. He kind of holds his cards close to his chest. He's very quiet. Um, Gosh, I don't think he has ever said like, "I'm proud of you." My mom is very proud of us, and she's definitely cut back on her drinking. But it's kind of interesting. I did a podcast episode on my show with my brother for his 1 year and his 2 year. And my parents have never listened to them.
No.
Like, you would think they would listen to that, right? And they don't listen, but my sister does, and she's very supportive. My mom's like, "I just haven't gotten around to it." My dad will say, like, "I heard Chris was on your podcast," but yeah, it's just one of
It's
those.
Isn't it interesting, like
Yeah.
generationally, like you think about, here we are I'm in Florida, you're all the way in Idaho. We're on these mics, we're on this computer thing, we're talking about our feelings. I mean, I just watched what is what's on Netflix? It's all the light, what the one that
All the light you cannot see.
yes,
He
we
lives
just
in Boise, the author of
oh my
that book
gosh.
does.
Okay, so that book's amazing, and I read, and the book's amazing, and the TV show Netflix did a great job, and we just finished it last night. And you think about it, so generationally, so that's World War II, so
Yeah.
1945, and I mean, Phil, what's his name, Laurie, who plays the professor, they're talking on that. He's telling stories on a radio station that people are picking up. They didn't have these resources. No one was really telling human stories, right? Of
Yeah.
how people were really feeling. So my parents of that generation as well don't really, it's not comfortable. And I don't think it's as much about us as it is like kind of foreign. It's kind of a big change. It's like, wait a minute, we spent our whole lives hiding who we were, our secrets, who we are as family members. And today we've gone, no, we're not doing that anymore. The light is coming down. We're talking about things. We're shedding light. We're coming together as a society and saying it's okay. I've gone through this, you've gone through this, we're getting through this. And how are you doing it? And how are you doing it? And instead of being upset about it or being hurt by these things, we're shedding the light so it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, my parents got married. They eloped the day after my mom turned 18. She graduated high school early. They got eloped, and they had us 3 kids by the time she was 21. So they were just babies. They're still together. They actually live on my same block. We just live a block away. They're amazing, amazing parents, but you're right. Like, we just didn't have the tools that we do now. And thank God, like, there's such a light shining on mental health right now too, and recognizing like that is an area of our lives we really need to focus on, and part of that is sharing stories and being vulnerable with each other. And that's how we heal and move on and help each other,
It's
for sure.
amazing. It is so amazing. And I especially think since, we went through the COVID and this locking up, and it was in worse places than it was, I think, for me and probably for you. I mean, in the cities, it was crazy, but it really, the drinking among women has escalated. I mean, it's just gone crazy. And it was like, you couldn't go to your churches, you couldn't go to your community places and get together with your friends, but you could go to the liquor store. So it was kind of like this weird oxymoron. And I feel like we're all waking up going, wait a minute, that's not really kosher. We don't really want to live like that anymore. Let's try to change this up. So you decided to start a podcast. And when was that? Let's talk
I,
about the alcohol tipping. I keep calling it but it's alcohol tipping point. I got to take the
well,
out.
I think sometimes you could put a there. I think it
Okay.
goes there sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started the podcast in March of 2021. Yeah. Yep. So I've
And why did
actually,
you? Why did you?
well, I feel like a lot of things just fell in line once I gave up drinking. So I was done. I divorced alcohol. Signed the papers, divorce January 1st, 2020. It's interesting that you brought up COVID because a lot of people did turn to drinking. I actually found it easier to remain alcohol free, to remain sober during that time, because a lot of the times I would get some continuous days in, some streaks in, but I would go back to it if there was some kind of event or party or wedding or going out to a restaurant, you name it, anything social, I'd be back in it. So it really helped to have all of that shut down. At any rate, so in 2020 is when I knew, like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to really focus on how can I help other people. And that's when I just kind of played around and made a website, just pulling together resources and whatnot. And then um my friend at work was like, hey, there's this podcast studio opening up in Boise and they're doing tours, do you want to go? Because we were going to maybe do one for work where I was working at. And I'm like, sure. And so I went, and they're like, yeah, it's free to do. They had a model set up where they thought they'd get paid by advertisers, and so they just needed people to create podcast shows, and so you would just go and record and plug and play. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll do one. Why not? Right. And so it kind of started on a whim. And then I just kept doing it, and then starting to reach out to more people for guests and interviews. And so that's how that started. And I've just kept it going.
And you love it, and you still do your nursing, and you are like, and you are helping so many people. And don't you love it?
I do. I love it. Yeah. I'm actually not doing nursing as much. I've cut back because it was kind of hard to do all of that. I'm at a really good spot though, where I have just enough, like I have the podcast. I also run monthly dry groups, and I have all of that with the alcohol tipping point. And then I'm working a little bit with nursing. And then my kids are still, I have a freshman and a junior now, so they're still here, and I just really want to be here for them. And yeah, I'm at a great place right now.
Well, it sounds like it. And it has been such a pleasure having you on here. I feel like I have a new friend. We're new friends. We're friends. And I want to come out to Boise, and you have to come to Florida. And I enjoy every minute of your girls, because it is so amazing being a sober mom, being able to remember everything and being able to answer the phone and say, where are you? And other kids coming over and knowing it's safe, and that isn't, a factor in your house is amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so glad that we got to connect. And Busy is on my show too. That's coming out next week, I think. Yeah, in a week. Yeah.
Will be,
So
I think you're coming out. I think you're on. This is publishing. This is coming out. So everybody that's listening, where are you on here? Wait, there you are. You are coming on the 4th. That's next Monday.
ooh,
Yeah.
yay.
So you're coming
Yeah.
out on Monday and I'm coming out next week, and it's going to be kind of fun to do tag team. We're going to tag
Good.
team this out. Well, thank
Yay.
you so much. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, and congratulations on 4 years of continuous sobriety on January 1st. I hope I'm not jinxing it and you don't take it for that. But
I've
it's
come
amazing.
this far.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Well, everybody, please subscribe to my channel. Go check out Deb's. Please, please, please go check out An Alcohol Tipping Point. And know this, you are not alone. You are not alone. Don't ever think you're alone, and reach out, please, for help. You're going to be able to see Deb and all of her stuff in the description, by the way. I'll have the links to her podcast and the links to all of her social media. So until next time, everybody, keep getting busy, living sober. Bye-bye.
Thank you.